We've always been very influenced by Japanese style.
Yeah.
We were, intrigued by Issey Miyake
Yeah.
and Yoji Yamamoto,
Yeah.
Comme des Garçons.
Yeah.
Those were some of our heroes. And of course, there's some incredible stuff happening in India now. One of my life-changing experiences was eating at the Fat Duck by Heston Blumenthal. He had something else called The Sound of the Sea. It starts with sound, so you get little iPod nanos and you're listening to the seashore. And then you get your plate, which is a seascape. Put the first bite into your mouth and all your senses come together.
Wow.
It was incredible.
Yeah. Sonali Sattar has been an independent entrepreneur for over 2 decades and a part of Bangalore's ever-evolving need for new fashion or food. She established her fashion label and restaurant in the early 2000s with a strong commitment to sustainability, elegant minimalism, and yet a desirable end offering. Let's chat with Sonali on fine dining and fashion. Hi Sonali, thank you so
Hi.
much for coming to
Thank you.
Expressions.
Thank you for having me.
So tell me, what do you do?
I run a place called Grasshopper, which is both a restaurant. It's just a small restaurant with just 7 tables. And it's also a fashion store where we stock our own line of clothing called Hidden Harmony.
Okay.
So I'm both a designer and a restaurateur.
Wow, that's amazing.
Thank you.
So you ventured into this fine dining scene in Bangalore early 2000,
That's right.
and also it was European cuisine. So why European cuisine? Why not Japanese? Why? And how was the experience at that
So
age?
there was a history of a restaurant in the family.
Okay.
So my dad was really obsessed with Italian food. They had lived in Italy. I had to when I was a child.
Okay.
And he just used to spend time in all the restaurants finding out their secrets.
Okay.
So when he came back to Bangalore, he just gave up his, corporate job and decided to retire on this farm in Bangalore and start a little Italian restaurant only on weekends because everyone thought, oh my God, Banarkata Road is so far away.
Yeah.
Of course, it isn't really.
Yeah.
And in those days, it would only take 20 minutes to half an hour to get there. But
Yeah.
Bangalore was a sleepy old town.
Yeah.
So he started his weekend-only restaurant in 1987. And when my Himanshu, my ex-husband, and I moved to Bangalore, they were still running it. And when my dad passed away, we decided to take it on with my mother.
Okay.
So we really learned the ropes in my own restaurant.
Okay.
And when my mother had had enough, she said it's encroaching, into her home, and she was not passionate about food. It was my dad.
Yeah.
So when she decided to close it down, that's when we thought we'd do our own version of
Yeah.
what they were doing.
Yeah.
And since they were doing European food, it was like a natural progression, but our style is a bit different. It's sort of modern European.
Okay. Nice. And what was one thing that you remember learning vividly from your father about running a restaurant or about food?
Right. So, of course, one has to be passionate about it. You
Yeah.
can't just do it otherwise. And I think many things, but the most important is we did not even have a phone when we started. So some nights there would be 4 people, and then the next night there would be 30. So the moment he got a phone, he made it by reservation only.
Okay.
And the other most important learning was that he used to do something called surrender to the chef, which was
Okay.
his menu of the day.
Okay.
And we learned how brilliant that is because you're not tied down by
Yeah.
doing the same menu every day. You
Yeah.
can change it up based on ingredients. You can really have fun with it.
Yeah.
And his guests loved it. So we continued with that system.
Okay.
Yes.
Innovation for delectable food is perhaps key to drawing customers.
Absolutely.
How do you experiment with your menu, and how often do you change your menu, and how do you make it exciting? What is the process?
So I work very closely with a
Yeah.
team of chefs, and it's very much based on seasons and seasonal produce. So we sit together and we brainstorm every couple of months, and especially if it's a special occasion coming up, like Christmas or some occasion for which we need to do a special menu. We brainstorm, we come up with ideas, we talk about what's in season. Some things may even remain, some things might get slightly tweaked. And then there are always new experiments that come in. But it's not like we change the entire menu at any given time.
Yeah.
It's more just adding to it and deleting certain things.
Yeah. And when you said modern European cuisine, can you give us an example of some dishes or something that you're doing differently than others?
Sure. So, it's very simple because we at Grasshopper follow a very minimalistic
Yeah.
approach. So that transcends to the food as well.
Yeah.
But we like to explore, different techniques. So at the moment, we're doing a fermented leek soup that's
Okay.
fermented for 48 hours. And, to sort of tone it down, we serve it with quenelles of potato and parsley. And it's just a very subtle but very
Yeah.
beautiful dish
Yeah.
that we recently introduced to our menu.
Nice. What's the inspiration behind your core philosophy of minimalism and sustainability, and what drives this ideology?
I think it is just the way that we are built. So, Himanshu, who worked with me at Grasshopper for at least the first 15 years,
Yeah.
we studied design together. And that's when we realized that we have a very similar way of looking at life and design. So, yes, it was just something that works for us. We live our life that way. We bring up our children that way. Where we live, which is this big farm, we try to do things as sustainably as possible. And at Grasshopper, it just transcends. It goes through everything. Yeah, the design of the place, the food we serve, and the clothes that we design.
So it's the little and simple things that matter.
Absolutely.
And when going back to your earlier question, when I asked you that how often do you change your menu, it's also like, do you also get inspired when you travel, or do you learn?
Absolutely,
Yeah?
a lot. So travel has
Okay.
always been a big part of our
Yeah.
food journey.
Okay.
Absolutely, yes.
So any particular experience in your travels that you remember and you would like to share, which has changed your way of looking at food?
Sure. I think one of them was definitely a visit to Spain.
Mm-hmm.
And, we were really fascinated with the way, little places were serving seafood.
Yeah.
And, of course, we do our own version of it, but we did get a lot of ideas on, with sardines that they were serving and other things combined with beans and, really delicious recipes.
Yeah.
We absolutely love Japanese food.
Yeah.
So that's a big inspiration.
Yeah.
Yes, travel for sure. There are many, many instances and many wonderful restaurants we've eaten at.
You're among those who introduced the farm to table concept also in the city. What was that experience like?
It was very new. So not the fact that it was farm to table, but the whole concept of having, a menu of the day and having food that in those days was, there were very few restaurants even serving European style food.
Yeah.
So some got it, some didn't, and that will always be the case because I don't think we can ever please everybody, and that's not what we set out to do. We set out to just do what we do as best we can.
Yeah.
So yes, but those who got it, we got so much positive feedback, and a lot of them are still our clients till today.
Okay. What about your time at NIFT? How was the experience there?
It was a fabulous time because we were in the fourth batch, and it was the glory days of NIFT. There were the most amazing library. This was pre-internet, but we were exposed to everything. It was amazing. We had faculty coming in from all over the world. Every month there would be a new person to teach us different things. And it was a really fabulous experience. And I think, yes, we were allowed to really discover ourselves there.
Yeah. When did you decide to change this philosophy of minimalism and sustainability into business? And what were the challenges that you were facing?
To begin with, the fashion scene when we graduated from the NIFT in 1993, to begin with was very new in India. There were just a few designers emerging like Rohit Bal, Rohit Khosla, Ritu Berry. These were, the founders of the high fashion scene in India. But it was, the focus was on opulence. It had to really have a lot of stage presence, and there was a lot of gorgeous work on their clothes and a lot of bling. And our style was obviously the complete opposite. So our inaugural collection was completely in natural, it was white, off-white, and in natural fabrics, so a lot of khadi and organic cottons. So again, there was a very mixed response.
Yeah.
Some people just wondered what those plain old things were doing on a catwalk. And there were others who were completely taken up by it. And we never looked back. There was one show that we were invited to do, and our career just took off after that.
So I noticed that, farm to table, then this new collection. So you get mixed responses. So nothing discouraged you to,
So I think we
feel
were
otherwise?
lucky. One is we are very stubborn. We feel that we can only do things well when we do it from our heart and really
Yes.
feel for it.
Yes.
So and we're also spoiled because we always had a base.
Yeah.
So, our workshop is on the farm where we live, and so is Grasshopper. So without having to worry too much about rent and, other basics like that, I think it already lifts a lot off your shoulder.
Yeah.
And you can be a little bit more idealistic.
Yeah.
So we were lucky in that sense.
And you set up this restaurant and the venture, the Harmony clothes line,
Right.
with your partner, design partner Himanshu Dimri. How was it to two minds coming together? Did you have conflicts, and how did you handle?
Well, surprisingly, when it came to work, we were totally in sync.
Yeah.
So, our aesthetics are so in tune with each other's that there was never any problem there. I think, we did better working together than we did in our marriage. So, yes, and even now, in fact, he takes all the photographs for Grasshopper because who would understand the food or the clothing better than a person who founded the brand along with me? And he's now reinvented himself as a photographer, and he takes beautiful images for us. So we still do work together.
Okay, lovely. How is it that you chose Bengaluru and not there are other places in India, Delhi, and
Right.
And the restaurant's current location must have been way out of the city those days when you started it. So was it easy to get people to come to your restaurant?
So we chose the city mostly because my parents were here on this beautiful 3-acre property, and we set up workshop there, and we just love the vibe of the city. So of course it was a lot more laid back in those days. And we just felt that people are more individualistic. And not so obsessed with, trends and those kind of things. And that sort of fit with us. Nobody's trying to, outdo the other in the way that they look or dress. Everyone has their own style. And so that was wonderful. And yes, at the beginning, we had a little studio in the city as well before Grasshopper opened, because we thought we need to make it more accessible. And that was it was a 100-year-old cottage, and we really enjoyed that phase. But when we decided to open Grasshopper as a restaurant and a clothing store, then the best option was to use our own land, and we built a little space. So yes, of course, even till today, I think people, worry about the drive. But in a way, it also makes it more special. You're heading out to this place, and and even when you enter our property, there's a little bit of intrigue because we don't light it up too much until you actually enter the restaurant area, and then you get a sense of what it's like. So I think I enjoy that little bit of mystery.
And were you inspired by Amethyst in Chennai? Because I know that you had a lot of visits to Chennai.
Absolutely. Well, if I'm not wrong, I think we started before them. But yes, it is a similar
concept.
It is. So I only visited Amethyst quite recently in 2002. We had been supplying our clothes to them for a very long time. But in 2000, and we knew Kiran because she would constantly come to us. So we did a pop-up there, which was both for the restaurant and our clothes, and it was fabulous. They gave us a whole cordoned-off portion of their restaurant, and we set up our own little kitchen. All the chefs drove down, and we ran it just like we do our place here, which is by reservation. We know their preferences in advance, and then we serve the menu of the day. But of course, with their local produce, and that was really exciting. And our chef at that time was from Chennai, so that was a huge plus.
Nice. And how has your association with Kiran Rao been? As in,
it's fantastic. They were just so welcoming and so great when we went there. Took care of us in unbelievable ways. And selling our clothes there, we don't even think about it. We don't have to promote it. We don't have to do anything. But our clothes just fly off their shelves on a regular basis.
personally, what's your preferred cuisine? What do you like? And also, what's your style? I noticed that you like free flowing and
Yes.
not structured garments. So,
Right.
what goes behind that?
So they're actually clothes from our own label, and so Hidden Harmony believes in very free flowing, easy clothes, very comfortable. The fabrics as well, and yes, I mean I just normally wear our own clothes, and this is a style that I enjoy the most.
Yeah. And what about your cuisine? What do you like? And
I would say very subtle food. So I love Japanese food.
Okay.
Yes, nothing compares.
Yeah.
Scandinavian flavors also. Yes, I just love very simply done food. I think dousing things in sauces and, is not really my thing.
Yeah. And what's your favorite on the menu? Grasshopper menu?
So we've been doing this recipe that is so simple, but I just love it. It's we use whatever fish is the freshest. At the moment, we're using sea bass, and it's with fresh tarragon and capers and lemon, and it's served with a mint and pea puree.
Wow.
And it's just, it comes together so beautifully. It's a very simple dish, but like most of our recipes.
How does plating play a role in presentation?
A huge role, there's no question. Again, there we try not to be too elaborate. So it's very simple plating, but again, that little attention to detail and that simplicity is very important to us. So we don't put too many things on a plate. We limit the number of ingredients, but everything is very thought about, and it plays a huge role because, as one sees a dish, I think if that appeals to you, then it's almost quarter of your job done.
And you keep evolving there, as in you keep,
Definitely.
Yeah. Take us through your multi-course dining experience a little bit.
So the experience really starts with the phone conversation, and that's why we haven't completely gone online with our reservations yet.
Yeah.
A lot of people come for special occasions, so they want to know what we can do to customize it a bit. And we customize the meal itself. So we ask them first if they prefer a 5 or 7 course meal, and then we'd ask them what their preferences are, and most importantly, what their dislikes and allergies are. So the day's menu is slightly tweaked for each table.
Yeah.
So we normally start with a complimentary welcome drink and a mousse-bouche, and then we have some lovely breads that we make in-house. So there's a bread basket, maybe with an accompaniment. And then we go on to the appetizers. So in the non-vegetarian menu, we love to do seafood, whatever is fresh in the market. We are not particularly fond of chicken, but a lot of people eat chicken. So we maybe do a chicken appetizer. Then we do a lovely fresh salad. Right now, since strawberries are in season, we're doing a strawberry and feta salad. And then we go on to the main course. So in a 5-course meal, there's 1 main course, and in a 7-course meal, there would be 2. And dessert, we actually offer our guests a choice. That's the only place where they can decide on the spot what they'd like to have. So we have that's also a changing menu of about 4 or 5 different things.
And it's a lot of work. I mean, you're calling up, the guests and asking them their preference. It requires a lot of time and effort.
It does, but I think it... at the end of the day, once people know what to expect, I think then half your work is done. You've sort of that you've done the groundwork, and when they come, there are no surprises, good or bad. So that's nice in a way.
And
and
most of the time they cooperate with you when you ask them for the...
Most of the time. There are still some people who, even after the whole conversation, they come and then they write a review saying, we weren't even given a choice of what to eat. But it's made very clear right at the beginning. But since a lot of restaurants operate in a different way, they don't get it even after the conversation. And the most common question is it a buffet or is it a la carte? And when we say no, it's neither, and then we really have to get into the details. So a conversation on the phone lasts at least 10 minutes. But I think it's worth the effort.
You also have a fixed menu to curb food wastage, right?
As well. Exactly. So
that's brilliant, actually. And any other new ideas like this that you've incorporated in your restaurant?
You mean to do with sustainability?
Yeah.
Right. So we, try to, as far as possible, use things that are from within the country. I mean, we grow a few things, not enough, unfortunately, but we try to source from farms close by. I think all our ingredients are Indian, even all our cheeses now. I think only olives and olive oil. We're still using the imported ones, but they are producing olive oil in India now, so we just need to, find out which one we'd like to. Yes. So, and we order in bulk, we, even if something is forgotten, there's no chance that we're going to just get it on Swiggy or one of those things because, or Amazon, because we find that is, just a terrible system to follow. And of course, there's very little plastic, no plastic bottles of water or anything at our restaurant. So small things, but I still think we have a long way to go on our sustainability journey.
How do you personalize an experience? Do you also have some sort of performance, music for celebrations?
So, not really for celebrations, but when we design Grasshopper, the shop space converts into a performance area very easily. And it has great acoustics. It wasn't planned, it just happened. So we've had musicians come and do little, solo performances. We've had a lot of theatre shows, brilliant ones. But, right now there's metro work going on Bannerghatta Road. And so I just, I don't want a performance to come and be disappointed by a low turnout or something. So once that's finished, we'll probably get back to doing more shows.
And you think that adds to the whole dining experience?
I think it does, but normally it's separate from the dining. We sometimes do supper theatre, like we, do dinner after. But yes, the dining is normally separate, and some diners do ask for live musicians. So we have a space which is completely set apart from the others. We call it our private dining. So there, yes, we can, get them a guitarist, or they organize it for themselves if they want, but not in the main restaurant area. We have a certain music playing, which is jazz usually.
And mostly it's on occasions like Christmas or something, or it could be anything?
You mean the special performances? It could be at any time of year. Anything that's really fascinating, that catches our fancy, we invite them to come.
So what matters the most, food, vibe, or company?
All three. Definitely all three.
How do you encourage chefs to organize their workspace? Are you all very organized and clean?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for me, that's very, very important. I think, it's impossible to be creative in a messy environment. At least that's my way of looking at it. Others may say, no, we work best with clutter. But I try my best to get Grasshopper as organized as possible.
How do you ensure the restaurant staff are performing at the highest levels? How do you motivate them?
Well, that's sometimes difficult. But, I think what each chef that's been through our doors appreciates about Grasshopper is they are given a lot of leeway. So they are pushed right from, everybody in the kitchen, not just the head chef, or anybody who's been with us for over 6 months is encouraged to start inventing, developing, So, but sometimes even then, even though they know that, they need a little bit of a push. So that therefore we have these meetings where we discuss things regularly, and I kind of have identified each one's strengths. So then we figure out who will work on what.
So what do you think of tipping? Is tipping a good practice?
I think it is, because I think it's a great incentive to both the kitchen and the service staff. So we have a system where we pool all the tips and we divide it based on seniority. Who's been with us the longest and who has the most responsibilities will get a bigger share. So we divide it up percentage-wise.
What's your experience been of working with chefs like Preetam Kumar, Tosif, Shamsuddin?
So, Himanshu and I worked together for the first 15 years of Grasshopper. So you get very set in your ways, and there's systems that you follow only because you started out with them. And they don't necessarily work that well either. So the first person who came after Himanshu was Preetam. And I have to say it was a great eye-opener, because he came in with such positive energy and so much creativity and so many ideas. And he incorporated many systems that were just more, that worked for everybody.
Like an example?
So, I think Himanshu's menu was very much in his own head. And he would just, put it down in very basic terms for the rest of the people to understand, like fish or meat or whatever. But, Preetham said, but how can everybody not know exactly what's in the dish? Of course, they knew, but, it should be down in detail. And so, the sharing of what was being served, the more communication with the service staff. And he also just, had a wonderful way with people. So with him, he remembered everybody's birthdays and these wonderful things that actually make a workspace so much more pleasant. So yes, he was a great person to work with. And Tausif, very, very, very creative, incredibly talented. So when I say that we give chefs about 6 months before we, start with experiments, it's because we figure that that's how long it takes for them to settle in and really understand the workings of the space and what grasshopper food is, because you can't really put that in terms. But after having worked a while, and he just took off after that. He did an amazing job with creating new ideas, and so I think an incredibly talented chef with a fantastic future. Yeah.
Where do you source your ingredients from, and what makes them special and different from the others?
So, we source them from all over the place, but I think things that really add that little burst of freshness to the plate, we grow ourselves. So, like microgreens and herbs and arugula, for example. So those things come straight from our backyard onto the plate. So I think that, really does make a difference to the dishes. And otherwise, various different places. We have some farms on Bannerghatta nearby. So, whenever they have produce, it's on our menu. And so we have, a lovely star fruit tree. Our neighbors have passion fruit. So those things constantly are incorporated.
So are you into gardening too? Do you
To an extent. I mean, I would love to grow a lot more for the restaurant, but that is a whole other thing and it takes a lot of time. So we do it on a small scale.
And what's the secret of sustaining such a business and keeping them viable for over 2 decades now?
Constant effort. Like I do not sit back for a second. And for me, it's very important that we do not start feeling like a place that's been around for 23 years. So, to infuse freshness constantly, to change up the menu on a regular basis, and to just make it feel wonderful and vibrant for each person who visits at any point. So it does take a lot of energy.
Since your ventures are about sustainability, how does the local community, women in particular, benefit since you get your produce from the farm?
Right.
There is this other side, philanthropy side of you. Where
Yes,
you help
absolutely.
women.
So that a lot in our garment making. So apart from one person, the rest of the workshop is only women. And a few of them came in as hand workers, because our garments are all finished by hand. So the time spent on the machine and the time spent off the machine is the same. But I just saw so much potential in them because they had, such a knack with their hands. And I knew they had sewing machines at home and they were sewing their own clothes. So I promoted them to tailors and trained them in that. And, got in new people. So they're all women from our villages. And I think, I think one or two have been with us for 20 years.
Wow.
So they've stayed with us, they've grown with us, and it gives me great pleasure. I've seen their children grow and I've seen their work just get better and better. And there's a certain commitment that women have that's just incredible.
You also mentioned that you work with a lot of young people. So are you able to connect with them easily?
Absolutely. I think they have opened up my mind in wonderful ways.
So, I mean, seeing how the trend is now, not many young people stay in one place. They keep... So do you notice that trend too? Or?
That is definitely a problem. So... yes, I mean, with Himanshu and I having worked together for 15 years, it took me a bit by surprise that anybody who came is not going to stay more than 2 or 3 years. So the first couple of times it happened, I was, taken aback, and then I realized that is just the way it's going to be. So now I'm a bit more relaxed about it.
Okay.
And, I just make sure that our bases are covered.
Okay.
We've had one chef with us since we opened, and he's, I think, going to continue.
Okay.
So with, different people with different strengths, we can keep going even if somebody leaves and, we have to get a replacement.
What's been your experience of Grasshopper outside of Bengaluru, like the Lodi at Delhi?
Right.
And what was your learning? As in, what was your experience like?
So again, we were so well taken care of, and that was very touching. We were really their guests for those 2 weeks. But what we realized is a couple of things. One is, first of all, what a big element our space is in the whole experience. People come for that lovely outdoor laid-back feeling, which, we tried to recreate a bit at the Lodi, but it obviously was a 5-star environment. Secondly, we realized how important that reservation process is, because we were not doing that there. We did that at Amethyst because we had learned, but we left it to their team, and they, having never visited Grasshopper or really understanding it, were not really able to convey everything to our guests, and people came with very mixed expectations. And I think also we learned the difference in cultures. That was so evident.
I was going to ask you that.
Nobody had the patience to sit back and relax over a meal. They wanted their food to be served like within half an hour. The whole 7-course meal should be served, which takes 2 to 2.5 hours at Grasshopper. So yes, we learned a lot. It was fun though.
Would you still be doing something like that?
I think if we got the opportunity, we've never chased anything. If things come our way, we're happy to participate if it feels like, it would be the right fit.
And what's a good culinary school to go to?
So we actually have employed a lot of people from it's called Waksha, the Welcome Group School in Manipal.
Okay.
And I feel that they really are very good. Yes, I think they have a very solid program, and a lot of the chefs who have come from there, yes, I have a lot of respect for their work ethic and other things.
Thanks for sharing. What was the idea of introducing internship at your restaurant? Any story that you can share of a trainee who made it big in the industry?
So that again started happening, after Himanshu left. And again, my whole worldview kind of opened up, and I saw, okay, it doesn't have to be just run by the two of us. And a lot of wonderful people came by asking for internships, and it was incredible because they brought so much fresh energy and so much life to the place. And then it became, people kind of started realizing that Grasshopper is a really fun place to intern. So we had a long string of them. And they've gone on to do wonderful things. Like one is in Italy now, working at a fabulous restaurant. He calls it Grasshopper on a hill. And they grow a lot of their own things. And we have another brilliant person who worked with us while he was still a student, but for about 3 years. And he's now at the Oberoi, and he's sous chef at one of the Italian restaurants in Bombay. So, yes, they've gone on to do great things.
So, Sonali, I want to ask you, have your parents had an influence on the career path that you've chosen?
Most definitely. So, I came from a very creative family. My father actually went to design school. He was a graphic designer. And my mom was just very interested in making clothes from a very young age. In fact, she used to make clothes for all her siblings, for parties, And then actually later even worked for boutiques and had a boutique of her own in the 60s in Bombay. And then my father had a corporate job for many, many years, gave that up and started a restaurant. So I've really, learned all these things from them. I owe everything to them. And we always had a really wonderful group of people that we were surrounded by. So my friends, my parents' friends were very interesting. Artists, designers, just interesting people around us all the time. And we were always made to believe that we could do anything, so long as we did it with totality and were very sure of what we were doing. There would be enough people who would appreciate it, that we didn't have to, start the other way around with a business proposal and think about who our clientele was. But so it was all a very different approach.
Nice. What was your relationship with them like?
It was amazing. We were very, very close, very close. But my father died when I was quite young. So I had just come back from design school to live in Bangalore, and Himanshu was coming too, and he passed away. Um, so that's when we decided that we would help my mother to continue her restaurant, their restaurant, which is called the Farmhouse, because it was a beautifully well-oiled machine, and we thought it would be a really, real big pity to just close it down.
Yeah. And to keep his legacy going.
Absolutely, yes.
Did you have, I'm guessing that you didn't have a tough time asking them to convince them about doing this.
Not at all. They were extremely supportive in every way.
And let's talk about your role of being a mother. How do you cook for your children, and is there anything they like, any favorites? Would you like to share anything?
So I had my children quite late, and I'm so grateful for that, because I was absolutely ready. We have such a great relationship.
Yeah.
They are, literally the people I'm closest to. And they think I'm the best cook in the world. But quite honestly, I cook very, very simple food at home. Okay. So I do a lot of one-pot meals, very nutritious, of course. So I do these big, soups with beans and meats and veggies and everything combined. A lot of emphasis on flavor, but nothing fancy, because they get that at Grasshopper anyway.
So do you all... your girls and you, do you have a cooking session or something? Anything?
Well, one of them is very into cooking. The other one, not at all. She loves food, but she's not into the process of making it.
Okay. And what are their names?
Ura and Baha.
Wow, lovely. Very
Thank
different.
You.
Coming to your venture, Hidden Harmony, how did that come about? How come you thought of Hidden Harmony? What was the idea behind it?
So, when Himanshu and I were at design school, that's when we started working together. We just realized that we really look at design in the same way, and that we work well together. So it had started even, at projects in college. And it just seemed natural that we would continue that. So, but everyone said, no, you must first get a job and, get some experience. So we did that, but literally for a year. And on the side, we had started making our own collection. And again, thanks to the wonderful support of my parents, and all their wonderful friends would come by, and someone said, hey, I'm doing this big fashion show in Bombay. Your clothes are beautiful. Why don't you just put them there? So friends and neighbors and everyone helped us to get that collection ready, because we had just one tailor in those days. And it was shown, on this big scale in Bombay, and we never looked back after that. Like I said, not everyone understood these very simple clothes, but it was also thought of as something very new, and a lot of people did appreciate what we did.
Okay. Did you always have an interest in fabrics clothing, or was it just...
Yes. So again, it was very much a part of my life always. Always had a sense for things that were natural. And, even growing up, synthetics were obviously looked down on. And but when I was younger, I knew that I would be a designer of some form, but I wasn't really sure which direction it would take. So clothing just sort of happened. I applied to NIFT, I got in, and that's...
It's not easy to get into NIFT. Even I did apply.
Yes, okay.
And it's also a diploma, not a degree. So
exactly.
Those were the concerns earlier days.
Right. But I think, at the end of the day, nobody's ever asked me for my diploma or degree or anything.
And what's your take on comfort versus style?
To me, the two go hand in hand. Like, I cannot even understand people who, wear seriously uncomfortable clothes in the name of style. It just is bizarre to me. To me, they're one and the same. Because you have to be comfortable in your own skin and in what you're wearing to enjoy yourself.
And how do you keep yourself updated with the latest trends? Do you watch?
I actually don't.
Okay.
So, I'm curious. So once in a while, maybe, I see stuff that's happening around, but it's not something that I'm really into, because I think our style and the clothes we make are very timeless. In fact, we have people who have bought them 25 years ago and say either they're still wearing them or their children are wearing our clothes.
Nice. Any favorite designer, Indian or international?
So yes, I mean we've always been very influenced by Japanese style,
Yeah.
and so right from our college days, we were intrigued by Issey Miyake,
Yeah.
who passed away recently, and Yoji Yamamoto,
Yeah.
Comme des Garçons.
Yeah.
Those were some of our heroes and still continue to be, I have to say.
Yeah.
And of course, there's some incredible stuff happening in India now.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, any favorite designer from India?
Not that I can name off the top of my head. Sorry. I'll have to, think about that.
Don't worry. But I think Japanese fashion is great. I recently went there and, their styles are just so different from the rest of the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And
Really.
Uniqlo is my favorite brand, actually.
It really is.
Living. Anything that stands out in either cultures of Chennai and Bangalore, because you've also been associated with Chennai for a long time. So, is there anything similarity or difference that you feel?
Well, I think the similarity is, again, that slightly laid back way of being. There's a lot of old money.
Yeah.
So people are not big show-offs or,
Yeah.
trying to impress
Yeah.
with their glitter and gold and other things. So I find that is a similarity.
Yeah.
There's a lot of culture in Chennai, and there's I find people are genuinely more themselves and more laid back.
I think I second that completely. Does Hidden Harmony also give local artisans a platform to showcase their skills?
Yes, actually.
Okay.
Hidden Harmony, or I would say Grasshopper does. So at the store, when we first started out, we actually had different designers contributing their clothes.
Okay.
But it just got a little tough with inventory and all of that. So the clothes are mostly ours, but we have other people who come and contribute, accessories. So jewelry, scarves, shoes, bags done by various different people. Sometimes we do little pop-ups, or we just, display them there.
Yeah.
And even the restaurant, we've showcased a few fabulous chefs, up and coming ones, because I think they don't get a chance in other places.
Yeah.
But we just give them the space for a night or two.
Okay.
And help them out and get the guests in.
Yeah.
And so far they've all worked brilliantly.
Any particular accessory designer that stands out that you've come across recently?
So actually one of them we used to work with very, very long ago, and she stopped designing jewelry for a while and went on to doing costume for film. And now she's back to doing that. I mean, she's doing both now. So her name is Neha. She has a jewelry line called Akirahin, which is her name backwards.
Okay.
And she does really brilliant jewelry.
Yeah.
Her current collection is an insect garden collection. And in fact, this ring is one of hers.
Wow.
One of her
Pretty.
older pieces.
Yeah.
So fabulous stuff.
I'm going to have a look.
Yes.
Any foreign ventures, dream collaboration that you have in mind, future plans?
Not really, because so many people have asked us what next for Grasshopper, but I think we're very content with where we are.
Yeah.
We have not increased the number of tables in the last 20 years, so we're not really looking to expand
That's a great
or
place to
venture
be,
out.
actually.
It
Content.
is.
Yeah.
I think just working on, improving what we're doing every day within what it is.
Yeah.
So yes.
Yeah. And how do you play running the twin business role, playing a mother? How do you handle all of this?
Well, I have to say it's not easy.
Yeah.
When people say that the restaurant business is one of the most difficult, I have to agree completely, because you're dealing with, a very varied clientele, and you're dealing with a perishable commodity, food.
Yeah.
And then your staff problems, and keeping it all together is very tough. So I would say that takes the most amount of effort. The clothes business is more my form of relaxation, and being with my kids is the best part. Of course, altogether it's a lot, but I think I've been blessed with a calmer disposition, so I don't get frazzled too easily.
Do you have family support also?
Unfortunately not. My mother passed away 2 years ago, but she was living with us and was a huge support. When they were born, I don't know how I would have managed twins without her.
And what are the fun things you do with your daughter? If you can share with us.
Lots of very varied things. So one is a footballer,
Okay.
and she recently played for the state, and so I've even taken her to a football game in London, and I'm not at all a sporty person, but all of a sudden I'm into football thanks to her. And with the kids, we love to eat out, travel together. They're great travelers.
Any place that you've been to which has been a good experience?
Many. We either just, go nearby on a driving trip, say to the Nilgiris, or last year in April, I took them to France, and my family was with us at the beginning, but then just the three of us went off to Paris, had an amazing time. So yes, they're at a fabulous age to travel with.
So Sonali, we'll do a quick rapid fire round.
Okay.
5 must-have items in your kitchen.
So I think a really good olive oil.
Yeah.
I love cheese, so some excellent cheese. Maybe something with a hint of heat. Like right now, I have this favorite chili oil with bean. It's a paste of the two. Some excellent sea salt. Yes.
Be a good knife.
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Your comfort food?
So that varies. I mean, there are times where, a good khichdi does it for me. There are other times where I would even think a nice piping hot bowl of pasta does the trick.
Favorite restaurant?
In Bangalore or anywhere?
Anywhere. And in Bangalore, give us both.
Okay. So, one of my life-changing experiences was eating at the Fat Duck by Heston Blumenthal very, very long ago. But I think that has very much, changed my idea of food. And so that was a fabulous experience. I love Ottolenghi restaurants. Sorry?
I'm curious to know more about this place that you've been to.
So he was, he has a very scientific approach to food. And way back when he started, he was one of the first to do molecular gastronomy. So it was just incredible, the things that he came up with. Just completely fascinating and took you by surprise constantly. So one of the favorites from that time were his bacon and egg ice cream, which he would make in front of you with dry ice. And, it was just fantastic. He had something else called the Sound of the Sea. So I'm talking about, maybe 15, 18 years ago that we went there. But it starts with sound, so you get little iPod nanos and you're listening to the seashore. And then you get your plate, which is a seascape. And it sounds almost a bit cheesy. So we were like, what's going on? Until you actually put the first bite into your mouth and all your senses come together. It was incredible. That was just something else.
Where was this, in Japan?
No, this was in a little village outside London called Bray. It was at that time named one of the best restaurants in the world, etc. But yeah, I think that was one of my most incredible experiences with food.
You were talking about something else?
So because my sister lives in London and we go there often, we love to eat at Ottolenghi restaurants. And I think Grasshopper's food philosophy kind of, gels with that. So that's always fun. And he focuses a lot on, plant-based food, which we do as well. So that's always interesting to taste his new inventions.
If you can have one chef cook for you, who would that be?
I would say, that's a tough one. Wow.
Do you follow any chefs in London or New York?
Yes, a few. I would say, why not Heston Blumenthal? Or maybe Rene Redzepi, who's from Noma, because their developments are just something else. It would be fantastic to experience that.
What's the best food review you've got?
I can't think of any one, but I think it's the people who come back and say that your food gets better each time. I think that's what means the most to me.
Your fashion mantra?
Keep it simple, really. Yes.
What's your idea of romance, and is there a romantic spot at Grasshopper?
Yes, my idea of romance is very, very far away from the cliched concept of romance. But I think Grasshopper is a very romantic spot without us trying to make it that. It has been come to be considered as extremely romantic,
Yeah.
simply because it's out in nature. There's a lot of greenery,
Yeah.
and we light it up with candles, and
Yeah.
we love fresh flowers.
Yeah.
But it's not at all cliched in any way. So when
Okay.
people say, can you add red roses or something, we refuse
Yeah.
because it's in our own style.
Yeah.
And yes, we have a private space at Grasshopper. So
Yeah.
we've had many wonderful proposals and great things happening there.
Yeah.
Sometimes just a couple, sometimes whole families come for a special occasion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Sonali, for coming
Thank
here.
you.
It was amazing talking to you, and thank you so much again.
Thanks. It was wonderful to be here.